Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. Happy Friday. I hope you all had a great weekend. You're all ready for the weekend as much as I am. The wheels of justice in America are finally starting to get to work, maybe a little bit slower than a lot of us hope, maybe not as fast as we had wished for, but the truth of the matter is that they are finally getting to work, and it's all because of great people like Tulsi Gabbard and the great efforts, I believe, of Kash Patel. Now, everyone else, I think, is lagging behind, to put it nicely, but those two folks in this administration doing a hell of a job so far to try to promote truth, justice, and the American way and transparency inside a government that, quite honestly, we haven't gotten for many years. And I'm not talking about inside the Trump administration. I'm merely talking about what we got out of a corrupt Biden administration and before the Biden administration, the Obama administration, which we now know was completely treasonous, complicit, and felonious in crimes against humanity, crimes against President Trump, crimes against innocent people who, quite honestly, couldn't defend themselves because of the government machine that was put against them. Kash Patel tells us that regardless of these dumps that we've gotten over the past week or so, the ones yesterday, obviously the latest ones, there is still plenty more to come. I'm going to read you that full statement from Kash Patel that he had just put out this afternoon in regard to what is to come. Quote, "We uncovered this annex." Now, this annex is talking about what we covered yesterday on the show, the Durham annex to the Durham report. "We uncovered this annex along with thousands of other documents buried in a back room at the FBI. It's revealed a highly classified piece of the Durham report, evidence that the Clinton campaign plotted to frame President Trump and fabricate the Russia collusion hoax. We worked with Chairman Grassley to declassify the documents immediately, and now the American people can see the truth for themselves. That's transparency. The Russian hoax was a disgrace that President Trump and our country should have never been put through. This should be a step towards justice. There will be more to come. Your FBI will keep being relentless to get the truth out. We're thankful to our federal partners at the Department of Justice, the CIA, and more. And thank you to Chuck Grassley for your tireless investigative work." He followed up with a tweet to somebody which says, "Good summary of what the FBI found and declassified for the first time ever. Much, much more to come." Now, Kash Patel hasn't been one of these people who has come out and said, "The documents are on my desk." We all know who did that. Kash Patel wasn't one of these people who came out and said, "The documents will be out next week." Kash Patel has, quite honestly, worked in silence, and I believe has been an integral part of every single document that we've seen released yet. Now, he says more to come. I'm going to take Kash at his word that more to come means more is coming. I'm not going to take him at his word as we took Pam Bondi, not to name drop, when she promised us the whole Epstein boondoggle that was going to happen. So I trust Kash, and I trust him to be a great man. The other person I trust greatly in this cabinet is Tulsi Gabbard. I think it's even more of a reason to trust her based on what we've seen happen. Just 2-3 months ago, we saw Tulsi Gabbard testify in front of the Senate committees that Iran had no nuclear weapons, and that's what was told to her inside of her department. It's now apparent from reporting that she was set up and given bad information to put her at odds with President Trump to try to force her out the door. Now, I don't know Tulsi personally. I met her once or twice, but my good friend Roger Stone speaks very highly of her. He met with her last week. It has nothing but good things to say to her, and has been right, quite honestly, about most people inside of this administration. Roger assures me that Tulsi is doing the best job she possibly can do, and I take him at his word, and I believe that she is. She sat down with Benny Johnson this week to talk about many things, one of those things being Operation Mockingbird. She confirmed that this current Trump administration is actively battling rogue intelligence operatives embedded deep within the federal government who are coordinating with corporate media to undermine the will of the American people and sabotage President Trump's agenda. This sounds awfully like what we saw in 2020 16, 17, 18, 19, and then going into 2020. So now those of you who are unfamiliar with Operation Mockingbird, Operation Mockingbird was originally a CIA program to infiltrate and control major news organizations using planted narratives, compromised journalists, and covert funding to steer public opinion in favor of a regime. Sounds like what they did in 2016, right? Though it was allegedly shut down in the 1970s, Americans have seen its fingerprints in everything from the Trump-Russia collusion hoax to the coordinated censorship of the COVID dissidents, of people who didn't want to, speak badly about vaccines, to even the Hunter Biden laptop cover-up. Gabbard's comments all but confirm the same forces that fed the lies to the New York Times, CNN, the Washington Post during the Obamagate and Russiagate are still hard at work leaking classified intelligence to these news operations. Take a listen to this quick clip of Tulsi with Benny Johnson.
The media being used as a propaganda mechanism, we saw it flatly. I mean, I think it's the smoking gun, quite frankly, of the Obamagate narrative and the Russiagate narrative, that it was so baked in that the New York Times and Washington Post went and ran with it. Some would say that that's part of Operation Mockingbird. Some would say that that's part of what we learned in the Church Committee, that the intel agencies were using media outlets as their mouthpieces, and that those mouthpieces would parrot the official narrative. And I wanted to ask you, is this operation still going on? Are you aware of the intel agencies working directly with media outlets in order to push prescribed narratives that may or may not be true?
It's something that we've already had to deal with, Benny, within this administration, where there are people within the intelligence community who believe that their will is more important than the will of the American people, and will weaponize intelligence by leaking it to their friends within the mainstream media with the intent of undermining President Trump's agenda. It is not one that he hasn't already talked about in every rally and town hall that he did throughout the campaign. I don't even know how many there were, but President Trump is enacting the very thing he promised the American people he would do in this election. So people in the intelligence community, they may agree, they may disagree. That's not the point here. As intelligence professionals, as people who work in the national security space, in the intelligence community, they are required to fulfill their mandate to their oath to the Constitution of the United States, and to the President of the United States, who is duly elected by the American people. Those who leak intelligence to their friends in the mainstream media with the intent of undermining the president who was elected by the American people, none of these intelligence professionals were. They are subverting the will of the people and therefore undermining the Constitution.
It's wild that you're still having to deal with that. Call it what you will. But Operation Mockingbird, just incredible that they were just out with it, that they were using the media as government organs to push propaganda, and it's still happening today.
This is why what we're doing is so important, Benny,
Yes.
and this is why President Trump's mandate in this is really critical, is by exposing the truth, by exposing the bad actors within the intelligence community and in the political space who are weaponizing intelligence to advance their own political interests, is so important to be able to turn the light on in places that have been dark for far too long, expose the truth, and drive accountability. That's the only way that we can actually shift this and begin the work to try to restore trust in the intelligence community.
So you can all get a picture of what Tulsi Gabbard is dealing with there. And she's not the only one. I mean, there is people who are embedded. People like Laura Loomer call them out and uncover these people each and every day, embedded throughout these government agencies, still seeking to undermine President Trump, seeking to undermine the Trump agenda, the America First agenda, which begs the question, how are they still able to hide? It's like we have 2016 all over again, where we've got embedded plants who are seeking to undermine democracy by undermining President Trump's agenda. The referendum happened in November and then was reaffirmed in January when President Trump took office. we shouldn't be 6 months into this administration right now with these scum still floating around inside the administration. We're going to take a quick break here. When we return, Tulsi Gabbard also had some comments on the 2020 election and her investigation into the election machines. You're going to want to hear it. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupted this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. So the 2020 election may be a few years in the rearview mirror, but it shouldn't be one to be forgotten. We all saw and witnessed what had happened. A stolen election. Stolen elections had consequences. We got an impaired puppet president in Joe Biden. We almost had an even more impaired Kamala Harris take over as president if it were for the great will of the American people. But years later, 5 years later, 5.5 years later now, we still don't have answers as to what happened on that day in November. What happened with those votes after midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, when people were shunned out of ballot places, when ballot watchers weren't allowed to go inside of areas? How do we still not understand? Just days after the election, we were told by CISA, Chris Krebs, that it was the most secure election in the history of the country. And we were supposed to believe that because that's what our government told us. And we're always supposed to believe what our government tells us, right? They would never deceive us. They would never lie to us. But it always stuck in the back of my head when you have somebody come out and say that over 100 million votes, nearly 200 million votes, in fact, were counted. And days later, we know there was no election fraud. Nothing went on. Everything was clean, clear. No fraud, nothing. It always boggled my mind, and it always boggled the mind of the great Lou Dobbs, which is why he took such great issue with finding out what happened in the 2020 election. And it came at a great cost to him. Lost his job at Fox Business, the highest rated show in business television, the highest rated show by far on the network, the smartest person at the network. They fired him. All because he wanted answers. So as time went on, it became more apparent to me that somebody was hiding something. And I believe that Fox News was, quite frankly, in on it. Why fire Lou Dobbs? Why fire Tucker Carlson for simply asking questions? And why settle a lawsuit when you did nothing wrong? It just doesn't make much sense. But as I said in the last segment, we have Tulsi Gabbard on the scene now, who I believe is going to be unrelenting in everything. She may have been a Democrat before, but her and Donald Trump have more similarities, I think, than most Republicans do, in the fact that they're two outsiders and the party wants nothing to do with them. Now, that's a good thing, in my opinion, because the Republican Party is absolute trash. The Democrat Party is an absolute dumpster fire. Donald Trump, I don't look at him as a Republican. I look at him as America First and all the people who follow him as America Firsters. The Republican Party, in my opinion, is gone. It's now the America First MAGA Party. And that's always going to be for the distant future, in my opinion. Every candidate from here on out will be some sort of emulation of Donald Trump and his policies and his beliefs that America comes first. And that's all that matters, not the foreign policy, none of that. So back to Tulsi Gabbard. She's now got her finger on the trigger, I guess we can say, for the 2020 election and the fraud. Benny Johnson asked her about it. Take a listen.
You made a comment at a cabinet secretary meeting that has stuck with our audience, and they'd really love an update on it. And it's about the 2020 election. And you were talking about the security of that election, and you were telling President Trump that there has been evidence that has been uncovered of potential breaches. I'm not exactly certain, but I'd love a follow-up on this. Here's the moment right here, and perhaps do you have any updates on the 2020 election or anything that you've found, Director?
The point that I was making there in the cabinet meeting was early discovery that I had seen from a whistleblower who came forward, who was working under CISA at that time, which is responsible for critical infrastructure and trying to protect against cyber vulnerabilities, critical infrastructure, including, of course, the integrity of our election systems. And what was interesting was seeing how this whistleblower brought forward information that CISA at that time, the federal government, was aware of vulnerabilities in our election machines, but they chose not to disclose that information to the American people or to the administration at that time. This is an area, of course, of critical importance, once again, for the American people to have faith in the integrity of our elections and that it is their voice that is heard through these elections. We're continuing to investigate this, and when we have information that we're ready to release, you'll hear about it.
Okay, so we're going to be hearing more on the 2020 election and some critical vulnerabilities.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
We're all glad to hear that as music to our ears. Now, the other thing that comes with this, and it all goes together, because this whole operation started back in 2016. 2016, for the next 4 years, they ran this coup against President Trump. But there were many facets to it. The Russia collusion aspect of it, the Ukrainian hoax where President Trump was impeached over the phone call, twice impeached President Trump, and so on and so forth. And it was sort of this rubber band ball. You folks all remember the rubber band balls. We add a rubber band, and the thing just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this thing just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. As the Marxist Dems decided they wanted to add more on to the nonsense. And that's what they continued to do. So you had that. You also had another big issue that the great Lou Dobbs took issue with, and it was the murdering of Seth Rich, the DNC staffer who was shot in the middle of a park in D.C. in the middle of the night. And they said it was a botched robbery. There's only one problem. Nothing was robbed from him. His body laid there lifelessly. His watch was still on him. His phone was still on him. And his wallet was there. So what was robbed from this man? Now, he wasn't just an ordinary guy who was shot in the back of his head. He happened to be a DNC staffer. Now, it's long been alleged by multiple people that Seth Rich was the one who leaked to the DNC, or rather, took this information from the DNC about Hillary Clinton and how they were going to steal from Bernie Sanders and gave it to Julian Assange, also known as WikiLeaks. Julian Assange, it's never been confirmed that he hacked anything or hacked into anything. And I believe he's went on the record before and said that everything he's been given or everything that he's released, he's been given to release. So we still don't know the full scope of that. Now, Ty Clevenger, who's a high-profile attorney, has been trying to fight, or has been fighting, not trying to fight, with the FBI and the Department of Justice for years to turn over the laptop of this fellow, Seth Rich. A judge has ruled that the FBI must turn it over. Now, the FBI has gone back and forth that they have the laptop, they don't have the laptop, they have the laptop, they don't have the laptop. They do have the laptop. That's confirmed. That's a fact. Now, it's been ordered that it be turned over to Attorney Ty Clevenger for inspection, to him to go through it, to release documents to the American people. But the FBI has still failed to do so. I've called on Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard to release everything as it pertains to Seth Rich. Now, I'm not saying don't release everything else for Russiagate, for the 2020 election, for the Epstein. It all needs to be put out. And I'm not saying release one before the other or cover one up for the other, but everything needs to come out. This is an administration that ran on transparency, and transparency is what we want. We want to know everything. We want to know why we've been deceived for the last 10 years. We want to know why we've been lied to for the last 10 years, and who's the culprit of it, who's guilty of it. And those folks who are guilty of it need to pay the price. Just as Roger Stone was woken up in his house at 5 o'clock in the morning and brought to jail. Just as Paul Manafort was perp walked. Just as Peter Navarro was dragged out of an airport in shackles. There needs to be truth, justice in the American way for these perpetrators who sought to destroy this country. And they almost succeeded. That's the scary part. They almost succeeded. We're going to take one more quick break here, folks. There's so much more to get to here on the Great America Show. We've got some new inflation numbers, President Trump firing some Biden officials, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are back. Unfortunately, we have that all for you on the other side of this quick break. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thanks, everybody, for staying with us here on the Great America Show. So just as much as we don't want to see them anymore, they are unfortunately back. Joe Biden speaking at a conference last night. He had a lot to say, but really not much. Take a listen.
My friends, we need to face the hard truth of this administration. It has been to ease all the gains we've made in my administration, to erase history rather than make it, to erase fairness, equality, to erase justice itself. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact.
Why won't he just go away? We just want him to disappear and to never be seen again. There was no accomplishments from his administration. Everything President Trump is reversing is bad for the country, which is why President Trump is reversing it. But he's not the only one who's out running his mouth. Of course, Kamala. None of us want to hear from her ever again, but unfortunately, we have no choice. Here she was last night on Colbert, no less, trying to sell some books on a man who's being fired for losing his network over $40 million a year. Put that one in your head and think about it. Here she is.
I mean, there's a lot of personal stuff in the book. I mean, poor Dougie.
You're blowing the lid off of Doug? What's going on?
For example, my birthday's in October. The election's in November. You see where I'm going. And Dougie kind of dropped the ball on my big birthday.
He didn't get you anything?
Oh, you have to read the book.
All right. Just tell me the page. Tell me the page. We're going to take him.
That's pretty telling that Stephen Colbert is going to have a lot of time on his hands coming up. Doesn't even want to read the book, asking for the page. But does anyone know what Kamala really said right there? I mean, you would think she would stay because it's apparent now she's running for president in 2028 with her announcement that she won't be seeking the governorship of California, which quite honestly she would win. So she's going to run for president, and she's leading the pack by a margin of 20-plus points. I believe people like Gavin Newsom are running in a distant second to her. You would think that this woman would disappear for as long as possible and then resurface when it comes time to run for president. Because the reason she lost was not only that people were giving a referendum on just how bad Joe Biden was, but because how bad she was. Word salad after word salad. She was like Joe Biden, just 30 years younger. I mean, he at least has an excuse. You know, he's an elderly man. She, on the other hand, is not old at all. Not someone who should be facing any sort of mental deficit. Yet every word that comes out of her mouth is a word salad. It's unbelievable that her, out of all people, are resurfacing. The other people who are resurfacing, John Brennan. You would think he would be ducking, disappearing.
And not in the truthful way in which it was given?
I think they see that there is politicization at the top of the intelligence and law enforcement agencies, undermining the credibility of the individuals who lead these organizations. And if it undermines the credibility of those individuals, it undermines the credibility of the institutions themselves. So the U.S. intelligence is the most powerful entity on the globe. So many other countries rely on U.S. intelligence that we feed them this information. But if they suspect that anything is being done for political purposes, they're no longer going to look at this information as objective, as apolitical, as accurate information, which really is a shame, because sometimes we need to have a coalition of the willing, coalition of all our partners and allies. And that intelligence really undergirds a lot of the political efforts underway.
Tell us Brennan after the election. That's a man who needs to also go into hiding, because he's going to find himself in a little bit of trouble in the coming days. He's done some very, very bad things. And as I've said many times on this show, I believe he's going to be one of the people who's going to wind up taking a fall for just how bad things got under the Obama administration. Let's turn now to some news. President Trump has been doing some housekeeping, some cleaning out of some Biden-era folks. Who got the axe today, you may ask? Well, we'll read this together. This post from Truth Social, President Trump. Quote, I was just informed that our country's, quote, job numbers are being produced by a Biden appointee, Dr. Erica McIntyre, the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, who faked the job numbers before the election to try and boost Kamala's chances of victory. This is the same Bureau of Labor Statistics that overstated the jobs growth in March of 2024 by approximately 818,000, and then right again before the 2024 presidential election in August and September by 112,000. These were records. No one can be that wrong. We need accurate job numbers, so I've directed my team to fire this Biden political appointee immediately. She will be replaced with someone much more competent and qualified. Important numbers like this must be fair and accurate. They can't be manipulated for political purposes. McIntyre said there were only 73,000 jobs added, a shock, but more importantly, that a major mistake was made by them. 258,000 jobs downward in the prior 2 months. Similar things have happened in the first part of the year, always to the negative. The economy is booming under Trump despite a Fed that also plays games, this time with interest rates, where they lowered them twice and substantially just before the presidential election, I assume in hopes of getting Kamala elected. How did that work out? Jerome Too Late Powell should also put out to pasture. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, the latest person to catch the axe today from President Trump, a person who's quite honestly sat there for far too long. Anybody who worked for Joe Biden should be fired immediately. Now, speaking of the economy, President Trump, today's a big day for tariffs, imposing new tariffs for nations who have failed to come to trade agreements with America. Those imposed tariffs are as follows. Switzerland is now looking at nearly a 40% tariff. Canada tariffs raised from 25 to 35. South Africa at 30%. Taiwan at 20. Vietnam at 20. Cambodia at 19. Thailand at 19. Malaysia at 19. Indonesia at 19. And Venezuela at 15%. President Trump is also looking at maybe some additional tariffs on Mexico, as they've yet to fix their fentanyl problem at the southern border, which he's asked nicely multiple times to get that under control, and they can't seem to do it. So they're going to have to pay the price. Speaking of Cambodia, President Trump has been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize once again from a new person by Cambodia. Not bad. And some new U.S. inflation numbers to bring you. The U.S. inflation index has just dropped to 1.67, according to Truflation. So President Trump has this thing on track to do great things if Jerome Powell wants to make it possible for Americans to start being able to afford to borrow money. Until then, things are going to be a little bit rough for us people as the federal government tries to stay on track. Some good news and good numbers for you. Native-born Americans have gained 1.8 million jobs over the past 4 months, while foreign-born workers have lost 1.5 million. This is the time of America. This is a time for the American people to shine. For the last 4 years, immigrants, illegal aliens have all been flourishing, been allowed to come to this country for free, trafficked into this country for free, not paid any taxes, put their children through our school system, used our hospital system for free. So it's time the American people get to be rewarded with something and be the recipient of something great. So that's all thanks to the great Donald Trump. As the great Lou Dobbs once put it, I hope you all have a great weekend, all made possible by the great, great Donald Trump. Folks, we'll see you back here on Monday for the Great America Show. That's all for us tonight. It's all for us this weekend. We'll see you back here Monday, same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Everybody, I hope you all have a great, blessed weekend. We'll see you back here Monday. Enjoy.